Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Heartfelt Conversations. Extremely excited about today's episode. We had a fabulous episode earlier last month, which was the first episode of the year. It was with Sana Singh Tomar, an executive coach, and it was about building the right mindset for 2025. If you didn't catch it, I would seriously recommend that you take out some time and watch it. You can find it on my events timeline. It provided us a lot of insights, valuable guidance in terms of how we should navigate 2025 with a greater sense of purpose and with action. So, that aside, I think this next guest of mine is extremely special as well. It fits in well with the kind of theme we set out for this year, which is around careers and about personal growth. And as you can see on the screen, the creator economy is what we're going to be discussing today. It's something that is sure to blow up, and I have with me someone very, very dear, someone very, very special who's agreed and been very kind enough to come on the show. Let me bring him on stage and I'll introduce him while he's with us. So, welcome, Ankur, and thank you so much for being part of Heartfelt's Conversations.
Thank you for having me over, Vikas. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you.
My privilege, totally, Ankur. And I think Ankur and everyone listening in, I think when I think about this conversation which is happening today, it reminds me of those, you can say, statements which one hears or one reads whenever you come across a luxury or a sports car, for example, a Ferrari, and it has this tagline, right, which says 0 to 60 mph in 3.7 seconds or something. And with Ankur, it's been pretty much the same with me. I mean, we met for the first time on the 30th of Jan, less than 10 days ago. And here we are conversing. The reason for that is very simple. Ankur, I was totally floored with that conversation, the amount of knowledge you carry on the creator economy. And I really want my community and, of course, your community as well to get a deeper sense of it. So that's the base and that's the reason why this conversation is happening today. For those of you who are not familiar yet, we are going to use the next 60 minutes or so to delve into the entire knowledge and expertise on the creator economy that Ankur has. And believe you me, he has a lot of it. So I'm just waiting to dig into it. But before that, Ankur, I think, wow, something that totally blew me away when I met you for the first time. And I learned that you've been a major in the Indian Army. So thank you, salute to you for your service. Very, very grateful. Not everyone has the personal drive, ambition, sense of purpose to do that. So before we start, I really want to share that gratitude. So thank you for that, Ankur.
Thank you. And by the way, Vikas, thank you very much for setting the tone. Yes, you're right. It just doesn't feel like we met about 10 days back. It feels like I've known you forever. So because that meeting that we had was so insightful, I think both ways. You shared so many excellent nuggets about your journey on LinkedIn and all. I think it was really a learning experience for me as well. So thank you very much. I think it was. I'm really looking forward to this session and many more in the future as well on the creator economy.
Very, very kind of you, Ankur. And the beauty of this platform, dear listeners, dear watchers, wherever you are in this world, is that this is the way connections are built and knowledge is shared. And I'm so grateful that we managed to get to interact with Ankur thanks to this platform. Now look at his journey from being a major in the Indian Army to today being an authority on the creator economy. He's been someone who was instrumental in setting up India's first edtech venture. It was called guruvantage.com. This was even before the days when we heard of the Baijus of the world, and it became a fancy term that VCs were throwing about all the time. So it would have taken a lot of vision, would have taken a lot of foresight to create something like that, and that tells you a lot about this fine gentleman. Apart from that, he's also now running his own newsletter where he throws guidance on the creator economy. That's built on the basis of his deep work with with companies like Meta, where he's held senior leadership positions in this space across different geographies. In fact, right from North America to India to Japan and Middle East, he's covered the whole gamut. So he knows what he's talking about. He's also drawn upon architecting partnerships between media platforms, the content creators, brands, and communities. So on a platform like LinkedIn, my personal feeling and understanding says is that you have a lot of creators who know the creator journey and how one can become a creator, so to speak, or develop their craft. but there are not many who know the other side of the coin. How do businesses run from a creator landscape? What are they seeing in terms of the evolution of the creator economy? And that's why someone like Ankur is very important, because for a creator who's starting out, for a creator who's start of just building his or her profile, understanding what companies look for and how that whole world of business is moving can be critical. So that's the context in which Ankur is here today. And without coming between you and him, I really want to get into getting some of those insights. So let me know in the chat where you've joined in from. Drop in your city, town, taluka's name, and it'll be helpful and insightful for us to also know which parts of the world we are kind of getting to interact with here today. So, with that tone, starting thoughts, Ankur, any from you in terms of the creator economy and what you're feeling excited about most these days?
Yeah, there are so many thoughts. How many hours do we have? Remind me again, because but
About an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, by around
I'll probably need
7:30
five, six
EST.
hours to kind of compile everything that's going on in my head right now. There's so many thoughts. First of all, I do feel like I'm really passionate and excited about the creator economy. I really feel like, and like you rightly mentioned, I've had a very diverse path in my own career journey. I've had a chance to obviously serve my country while I was in the Indian Army. Then I've been an ed tech entrepreneur. I've worked in obviously, big tech, media tech companies, and not only in India, but have had a pleasure of working outside of country as well to understand. That helps me understand a lot of background cultures, professional ways of working, etc., in different countries and all. And now I'm also not only consulting with a lot of companies on the creator economy, but I'm also, as you know, just written a book recently on the creator economy called Pixels to Profits. So I'm really excited. There's so many things that are going on, and out of the diverse experience that I've had, frankly, it wouldn't be a lie if I say that creator economy is, something which I've really developed a strong passion for. And I really see that the future of the world in which we are heading is actually going to be more and more centered around, the decentralization of content and the democratization of content, and that is the world in which we are living right now and we continue to kind of evolve into. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat with you to deep dive on creator economy.
Super. Thank you so much, Ankur. And yes, I think we will be digging into that book for sure, because it's something I'm looking forward to with great excitement. We'll wait for you to reveal the title and the details. But before that, just to get a sense of the influencer slash creator economy, these are the words that we get thrown about every day. Uh, how's the India landscape looking? Is it very different from what we're seeing in other parts of the world? Are the case studies from, let's say, the US or Europe, for example, or China for the matter, relevant
Mhm.
for our market?
Yeah. See, I think the way I look at it is that every country is unique, right? I mean, there are some unique differentiating factors for each and every geography. And creator economy is nothing but a reflection of the country in which they are in, because most of the creators are actually talking the language and using the cultural nuances of the country that they primarily represent, right? So because of the uniqueness of every country, the creator economy is also extremely unique in every market. Having said that, I still find that there are some similarities. There are more similarities than differences, let's say, in between markets. And like you mentioned also in the opening, I've had a chance to, when I was working at Meta, my role was to work with creators from all regional languages in India, which meant I was working with creators from Punjabi, from Bhojpuri, from Bangla, from all four South Indian languages. So I was working with creators with that sort of a diverse set. And then when I moved to Singapore to head the APAC markets, as you also know, that APAC is also a set of diverse countries with diverse languages, diverse backgrounds. So whether it's Korea or it's Bahasa or it's Japanese, having a chance to work with, again, creators across all the different spectrums gave me a very, I mean, I will say I'm being very grateful that I've got the very diverse view of the landscape of what the creator economy is. And having said that, the way I look back now when I'm in India and I start looking back and I start comparing notes in terms of like how the world is in different markets, I find more similarities than differences. But when it comes to, let's talk about the differences first. The big
Sure.
difference is obviously that the scale and the demography of India is extremely different from anywhere else in the world that I've seen. We have a total count of somewhere between 160 170 million creators today globally. India accounts for about 80% of sorry, India accounts for 80 million of them, which is about 50% of the overall demography of the creators globally. So it is the most populous country when it comes to the number of creators. The second piece is that India becomes very diverse in its expression, because within the country itself there are so many different languages and cultural nuances, which is like you can't even imagine seeing that amount of diversity in any other country in the world. So the creators per se are very um, kind of regional specific, right, as compared to anywhere else. The third important aspect about the demography is that because the regional creators are so important in a country like India, therefore, very uniquely, Indian creators, the nano creators, do extremely well in this country. So like a mega creator, the national level creator and all, they might be good, but if they're talking only just one language, let's say if they are a mega creator, if they have a couple of million followers, but they're sitting in Chennai and they're talking Tamil, probably the Punjabi followership will not be as strong for them, because it doesn't kind of resonate with those audiences. But if you have a even if you have a smaller creator, a micro or a nano creator in Chennai or in Kerala or in Punjab, they will have a much stronger affinity with their creator. So the uniqueness is that the smaller creators in regional languages have a very deep level of sort of fan engagement, which even the mega creators don't have to many extents. So that's a very unique proposition that this country has. Uh, in terms of the monetization bit, um, there are two or three things which are very unique about India. One, that the average revenue per creator is much lower in this country as compared to other countries, right? And that could be a function of the lower CPMs and the value of the denomination, etc. Because of the lower value of revenue, we see that creators are uh, in India are more excited about working with brands, because they don't make enough ad revenues or ad dollars per se. So there's a lot of brand connection that they're always looking for. Whereas in other markets, creators are very sort of platform dependent in terms of like having their content on the platform, so they're making enough revenues from the dollars that are coming in, and that kind of sustains them well. um, but the brands over here is also not the big brands. The smaller creator ends up working with a lot of smaller brands, which means that there is a lot of micro transactions that are happening in this country. So, which is again very unique, which doesn't happen a lot in, let's say, more developed markets and all. The third important thing that I find in this country is that US or other markets, they are a little ahead of us in terms of the maturity of the creator market. And by that, I don't mean that the maturity of the creators, because the creative process in India is very kind of mature. People are coming up with newer formats, newer ways of storytelling, and also that's fine. But I feel like where we are probably a little on the development curve, on the maturity scale, is mainly from the brand side of things. A lot of big brands are not looking at the creator economy the way they should be. They are not able to leverage the creator economy the way they can, the way it's happening in other markets. And I feel like there are models that are more brand social commerce kind of models. Like, for example, let's say retail commerce, where in the Walmart or other Asdas and other supermarkets of the world, you will find a lot of creators are given space within the retail shop front to go ahead and talk about the new products that are launching on the shelf over there. But over here, I haven't seen particularly like a Big Bazaar would open their doors to creators to come in and say, okay, come in and make content in Big Bazaar itself. So, those sort of innovations are there happening more in the Western countries, I feel, and probably just a matter of time before they start happening in India as a market as well. So, like broadly, I think from a content side, from a monetization side, and from a brand engagement side, I think these are the key differences that I see between India and the rest of the world. Having said that, I definitely feel that India has got really strong advantages to itself, especially with the diversity and the fact that the nano creators are doing so well over here. In fact, I was reading a study yesterday, and very interestingly, it says that nano creators who are covering the Kumbh Mela right now, have got an engagement of 200%,
Wow.
like in terms of incremental engagement and all. So that is great, because they are really talking the language that people want to hear, and they are probably resonating more. Their content is resonating more. It's more grassroots sort of content, and that is kind of resonating more. And therefore, there's probably much, much more engagement on a nano piece of content than somebody who's a mega creator who's making content but is getting about an incremental 3 to 4% engagement. While as compared to this, it's all 200 increment in terms of engagement. So yeah, that's a case in point, I'd say.
Superb. I think, Ankur, to use an analogy from cricket, I think you hit a six on the first ball itself. So that answer was extremely detailed, extremely insightful, and I'm sure our audience would have noticed that. So that's the reason my choice or my thought of getting you onto the show has been validated straight off. But a lot of learning for me
Hashtag no
in this.
pressure.
No, but it's organic, right? I mean, it comes from you, from your knowledge, which you have honed over the last 20 plus years. So brilliant. I think very, very valuable. I do want to reiterate something very interesting you shared in the middle, which was about 50% of the world's creators you said are in India. That's a staggering number. That's a staggering
But
percentage.
but can I also add over here,
Sure, please.
80
Yeah.
million creators today, and less than 1% of them actually make a really sustainable living. That means that about 72 million of them are actually not making a sustainable living from the creator economy. That's a staggering number, which means that probably there is a lot of people who are making content but are not probably regular with it, probably are not able to kind of continue with the momentum of making content. People who are
Mhm.
making content now, and then there's a bit of a gap when they are kind of coming back again online, or even folks who are dropping out. Maybe they are making content for 3 months and they realize, it's not working out for me, so they start dropping out, and then they maybe come back in. So that's a number that I'm really keen. Like, while it's good to say 80 million creators in India, but it's also a little of a concern to realize that 99% of them are not making a sustainable living out of it.
Interesting, and this is exactly where I was sort of thinking of heading because after all, the show is about careers and growth, and this data insight which you shared is very thought-provoking, worrisome at some point because
Yeah.
when I interact with the younger lot and I see a greater incidence of uh, even school kids today thinking about how they can quickly start a YouTube channel and start making money or become
Mm.
influencers. Uh, but the data point which you shared is a- something that they should be really thinking about. And like you said earlier in your previous response as well, I think the entire ecosystem still needs to mature. So I think work there. But the question, Ankur, then is that if you look at careers now, what happens to conventional careers in your view? Because like we've been discussing, there seems to be a greater interest for sure. A lot of people considering becoming creators and monetizing it. And you've also established that not everyone is able to monetize it. So, what's the career landscape going to look like in the creator economy?
Well, see, there are two ways to look at it. One, that there is an aspect about becoming a creator, but behind every creator, there's also a team, right? So there are editors, there are thumbnail designers, there are so many different kind of careers that are behind every piece of content that we see as well, right? So while I think a lot of folks want to think about creator economy as a career option, I feel like there are becoming a creator is one thing, but enabling the creator is another career option that folks might have. So that's another consideration to have. The second thing is, like, see, a lot of boost in terms of the number of creators or people who are joining the creator economy as creators came in really after or the during the advent of COVID, right? I mean, COVID really saw the spike coming in because folks did not really have offices to go to. They had probably more time on themselves. There was more and more consumption happening online, and then because of the demand that was there, a lot of supply started happening where people started becoming creators and started storytelling online, and suddenly they realized that they have an audience and it's kind of bumping up. And if you remember that time, most of the major platforms were also paying a little bit more in terms of they had those creator funds that were made in at that time. So all the major platforms, whether it was YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, everybody was sort of encouraging more content creation because of those creator funds. So that kind of upticked the start of where people were starting to think about it. Now, having said that, and it's been about 3 years that COVID has kind of simmered down and all. I feel like it's kind of set up a trend which is going to continue for some time, till such time we start to see more and more people realizing that, hey, this is a very cluttered space. I'm not able to make enough money over here. So let me go back to more traditional formats of jobs and all. So up till now, I guess the flow was when people were in the jobs, were leaving the job to become creators. I think in the future, maybe a year down the line or something, you might have more creators leaving their creativity and getting back to jobs. That reverse cycling might start to happen now. I think there might be a reverse migration that will start to happen. But having said that, I do feel that there's always going to be a market for, one, the creator, but also secondly, the people who are behind the creator scene. So there's always going to be a market for, let's say now AI is becoming pretty huge, so there's always going to be a market for more and more people who can leverage AI to create excellent content. They might not be content creators themselves, but they could be techno graduates who understand how to work with AI probably better than anyone else, and they might turn into content creators. So I feel like there might be a different um, sort of category of content creators that might be coming up, and a lot of folks from the traditional or from the original form of content storytelling, the original content creators, might actually start to move back into more sort of day jobs and start looking at content creation as a side hobby or a side hustle or something. So I think that sort of reverse migration will happen, but also newer folks who are more technologically savvy will start coming into the creator economy, because in the future in which we are headed, I guess technology or the use of technology is going to be more sort of important than just being able to tell your story. You tell your story is good, it's great, but tell your story with technology enabled models, that will be probably even better.
Wow. And I think we're seeing that already in some sense, if I'm not mistaken, Ankur, where a platform like LinkedIn is also today encouraging video, which
Yeah.
requires that technology interface or interplay much more than previous iteration of LinkedIn, where it was mostly text driven platform. So yeah,
Yeah.
this makes sense. It's showing us a new window into what could be happening. And to your point, the pandemic, yes, played a huge role in our country as well. I can honestly say I'm a product of that. 2020 is when literally started creating and had that additional time on hand to be able to build up. And then, like you said, the platforms also realized, and LinkedIn itself had a creator accelerator program, which I was very fortunate to be selected for. In fact, on the chat line today, I see a lot of my colleagues from the creator accelerator program of 2022. We have Anand here, who's joined in. There is Anshuman Tiwari. Uh, this is another one of my batchmates, if I might use that word. Uh, Niharika Sodi, who's making great waves herself, amazing content creator. And yeah, lovely to see so many of you join in. Thank you so much. It's great. And I hope you're enjoying this conversation this evening. I'm learning a lot. Uh, there are also questions coming from these folks. Niharika wants to know the future of the creator economy, but we'll pick that up towards the end, Niharika, if that's okay. That's the closing note for this conversation as planned. So we will go there. But before we, move out, Ankur, just want to also understand, because you hinted upon it, because now with more people jumping into the fray, people have started seeing a lot of these influencers, like they say, make their pot of gold. So you have people running in or rushing into this gold rush. At some point, do you see a saturation coming in? The
No,
platforms, like
I
you said, have
frankly
already
don't.
started cutting down their payouts, for example.
Yeah, I don't see a saturation, definitely not, because I think this is a very ever growing sort of a space that we are in right now. See, there are always going to be some headers. Like there are always going to be some people who are always going to be in front of the other person, right? I mean, that's the nature of how anywhere we might be. Like if you're going on the road, they will in the traffic, and I often do that when I'm going on the highway. There's always a car ahead of me, right? Even if it's a long road, I overtake that car, and then again there's a car again ahead of me. So this is a endless goal line, and this is going to always be. You'll always have some headliners. But having said that, I think the competition is not about grabbing that first space or the top slot or something. I think the important part is what sort of value is it that you're delivering to your core audience? Who are your core audience, number one? And if you identify who your core audiences are, then how are you going to be making content or telling that, or being true to yourself, being true to your audiences, and being able to share what they want to hear, for which they're following you, or for which they are actually being a part of your community. So I think it's less about how do you get to the top. It's more about how do you deliver more value in whatever you are doing, which whatever number of followers that you might have. And I might like to just clarify over here one more thing, that oftentimes when I speak to creators, a lot of creators, because they are, they ask me exactly the same thing, that, hey, I haven't reached 10,000 or 1 million followers or 100,000 followers. So what is the point of me doing all of this, and where am I going to land? I'm just getting numbers, but it's not amounting to anything and all. And I guess that's something that I really want to, and I always tell them, and I always try to drive it back to them, is that even if you had 5,000 creators, and sorry, 5,000 followers, and that was your community. As a creator, you have got 5,000 people who are a part of your strong community. That's more than enough for you to start building an economy. You don't really need to necessarily have 100,000 followers, and only then will you start making money on the platform. And the names that you just mentioned sometime back, Niharika and all, Niharika does such a great job in terms of like monetizing a community of her own, through productizations, through courses. I think there are so many ways, and of course she's got a whole lot of followers. That's a different issue altogether. But even if you did not have as many followers, even if you had a smaller cohort of community of followers, which were loyal to you, or which was kind of sticky to you as a community, there are ways to kind of go ahead and be able to create an economy from that particular space where you're at. And again, the only way that you'll be able to actually create an economy with a smaller set of followers is when you are very authentic in terms of your communication to your community. Finally, if you're creating value for the people that you're working for, as your audiences, as your community, I think you are in a better position than having 1 million followers and still not being able to resonate with any of them.
Awesome. No, very, very helpful. You're right. And yes, creators like me also look up to people like Niharika, because at these young ages, the kind of foresight, the kind of strategic approach they have to content creation is worth emulating. So
Exactly.
that's something that, again, thanks to the platform, one tends to learn by observing, by watching, by connecting. So that's the whole beauty of this new tech world. At this point, Ankur, and with your permission, if you're comfortable, should we reveal the book that you've been writing, the one which is very close to getting published very soon? I have the cover that you shared with me, and if you are okay with it, I could share it on the screen.
Please,
But if it's
yes,
under
please,
wraps
of
for now,
course.
I understand. Oh, it's lovely. Very kind of you. So this is the book, folks, coming very, very soon, Pixels to Profits, and very appropriately titled. Ankur, why don't you share a bit about it? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going to be the first in line to buy this book. Please don't gift it to me. I want to buy it. So I'm right there in line.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that. So Pixels to Profits. I think let me start by saying that, as we all know, probably the smallest form of, when we look at the screen or the image, the smallest form is a pixel, right? And the idea is, how do pixels come together to kind of create sort of a profit for yourself? And this book is really my take on how the creator economy is, mainly because a lot of people today talk about the creator economy, but very few people actually get it. And my endeavor through this book is to try and simplify the concept of the creator economy, so that folks who are sitting on the fences, sitting on the sides, are able to understand this economy better, and therefore, understand that what is their play going to be at when they get into this. Because at the end of the day, those 99% who are not making revenue, they should be able to realize, like, okay, what is it that I can do within this creator economy that will help me make revenue? So that is on the creator side. The other side of the fence is, let's say the Nikes and the Coca-Colas, they really know what they're doing, because they are big brands, they have big marketing teams, they know how they want to leverage the creator economy. But if I was to think of that that fashion boutique brand which was in the mall that I walked in yesterday. Probably they are an emerging brand. They're a small company. They're a small brand. They want to really get bigger, but they might not have the marketing dollars to give to an ad agency to make a creative for them and put it on television, right? But can they leverage the creator economy to create that brand resonance? Probably yes. Will it be done at fraction of a cost as compared to television and ad agencies? Definitely yes. Do they know how to do it? Definitely not, or probably not. So I feel like there's a large gap today between small brands, small and medium enterprises, and the aspiring and the emerging creators to kind of have this matchmaking done. I feel like this is an area that has been really kind of avoided or not been explored as much, mainly because brands don't know how to work with creators and creators don't know how to approach brands. And I'm talking about the small and medium brands and the emerging aspiring creators. So the book really tries to simplify the concept of the creator economy for mainly these two cohorts as, let's say, my target audience, right? And what I'm trying to do over here is, or what I've done in the book is that I've uh, tried to simplify the creator economy into five key pillars, or five pillar frameworks. I call them the 5C framework. So the first C, the C1, is the creator, which is, as we all know, is the heart and soul of the creator economy. The C2 is the collaborator. Collaborators are brands. These are the brands who are working with the creators, and probably, they're the funders of the creator economy, if you may, right? The C3 is the channels. Channels are platforms where we put the content, so it could be Facebook's, Instagram. But I frankly encourage everybody to start thinking beyond Facebook and Instagram and, LinkedIn and X and Twitter, but actually start thinking about, let's say, Kajabi or a Patreon or or a Topmate, which is an Indian company and all. So look at those companies as well as different platform, which is the C3, the channels. C4 is the commerce, and by commerce I mean anything beyond your ad dollars. So this could be, like we spoke about, courses. This could be one-on-one sessions. This could be newsletters. These could be anything which is helping you make money beyond the ad dollars. How can you merchandise? How can you really make an economy beyond the ad dollars? So that is the C4. And finally, the C5, or the fifth C, is people like you and me as well, like community or the consumers. So folks who are, let's say, the spinal cord, the spine of the creator economy, who are the consumers, the community, where everything is being happening, or everything that happens in the content side of things really comes down to the community aspect at the end of the day. So in the book, I say that all of these five C's, C1 to C5, the creator economy is all about all of these five C's interacting and transacting with each other. And then it kind of breaks down into different sections about how does this particular C1 works with C4 and C3 works with C2. So, it kind of lays down very systematically every little piece of the creator economy so that folks can understand which part is it that they are at, and how is it that they can leverage the creator economy to kind of have a more sustainable um, you know uh, more sustainable model of building a business over the creator economy. And if I may also add, there are some references that I've used, which we often use in the world. Let's say, for example, we talk about creator and influencers very fluidly. We all sometimes talk creators, we say influencers, and this is being used very interchangeably between anyone.
Right.
But is there a difference really? And if there is a difference, what could be that difference? And then we also see that there are sometimes some pieces of content do really well over some pieces of content which are not doing so well. So what is that secret sauce? Why is it that some pieces of content do better than the others, and most of them don't? So things like that. Then I talk about a concept about the ABC concept, which is some folks, like I was talking about earlier, are the actioneers. A for action people, action driven people, actioneers. They are the guys who jump in and take action and start building content if you're a creator. The B guys are the born natural. Born naturals are the people who haven't been doing it yet, but the moment they get into making content, they're just born naturals. People like yourself, Vikas. You guys are just naturally good at it. And then the C category are the people who are, I call them the curious onlookers. So these guys keep on sitting on the fence. They keep on overthinking whether they should jump in, whether they should not. They probably take 2 steps front and 3 steps back. They keep on moving up and down the ladder. So these are the curious onlookers. So like those kind of concepts on how do we differentiate people, what are the, let's say, criterias for a content piece doing well than the others, difference between creators and influencers, the 5C framework. There are multiple such and similar concepts that I've tried to tackle on in the book, so that everybody
Wow.
who reads the book understands the lay of the land much more clearly than they otherwise would.
Superb. And this, if this is the trailer, Ankur, I can't just wait to see what that book is going to be like. Amazing. And yeah, born natural. I'm going to have you talk to my wife. Maybe she will start believing that. And to take this forward, I think wish you tremendous success for this book. I have no doubt it's going to be a
Thank you.
bestseller, especially because the topic is so hot and the content that you just shared seems so detailed, seems so robust that it's definitely going to add value to all of us. I want to take this moment to let my audience know that since Ankur's book is not yet out, unfortunately, but my book is running a lucky draw right now. In your chat, please use this hashtag pixels to profits. Towards the end of the show, one person will be selected via lucky draw, and I will gift a copy of my book. So it's that's the hashtag on the screen. Go ahead and put it in the chat right away, and don't waste any time. One of you is going to win a copy of my book.
Ooh.
Moving on, Ankur, we do have a lot more comments coming in. I just want to scan it once to just see if there's any questions coming up which would require your expertise to answer.
Sure.
Yeah, I see one here. Again, a dear friend and community member, someone who's running a very fabulous venture around helping people pivot careers, Arjun Prakash. He wants to know how many creators you think can build sustainable content creation careers without any other supporting income.
Um, that's a great question, but I would say that when you say build content creation without any supporting income, I'm assuming this means other than the income from the platforms, or
I'm assuming he means that you're not. This is not a side gig, a content creation piece. It's like your bread and butter, and you're not
oh yeah, okay.
earning
Oh,
from.
like yeah, that's a good question, because that's something similar to what I was talking about, Arjun, that we don't really have to depend on the ad dollars on the platform to say that we need to have that amount of money with that amount of followers. But the creator economy is sort of modeled in a way now, and continues to be modeled in a way where individuals as creators can really very well create sustainable incomes for themselves beyond the platforms. And I gave an example of platforms like Kajabi or Patreon, Topmate. A lot of the people on the call today are already on some of these platforms, and there's enough and more opportunities for individuals to be able to monetize their audiences through paid subs, through courses, through newsletters, through merchandising. And that's a very viable sort of a income model that is being generated. I think it's all about being as creative as one can be. And if you are creative enough of figuring out how do you want to leverage your key audiences to build a sustainable model, you can even do. I mean, I've seen that in some countries. It also happens where creators do. We've seen eras, the world tour that Taylor Swift done or Coldplay does and all. Well, there are creators who do their tours as well. There are creators who go from one city to the other city and get those fan meetups and all those things, and they charge money for that. And people pay money because they want to do that one-on-one sessions with them. They want to have those mentorings with their own, with their own creator. I think it's all about how creative can you be. If you were a business person, if you were doing your own startup, you would probably be figuring out, once you have the MVP of your product ready as your startup, if your content offering is done and your MVP is there, you will probably get into that early stage of growth, where you will start kind of taking your MVP to different clients, to giving out free samples, helping them understand your product better, etc., etc. Similarly, so do creators. Think about creators like a small startup. where you've got your content sort of framework done, your content value proposition done, and then you're getting into the validation stage where you are invested in building your own community and going deep with your community. The third stage is the earning stage. This is the stage that you're talking about. For even for startups, when you go when you enter into the third stage, is the time when you really start getting deep into figuring out what the pricing models can be, how can you really get to the consumers more, how can you what can you charge, how much can you give out, free samples, whatnot. Similarly, in the creator economy world, as a creator, when you get to the growth stage, or after the growth stage, when you get to the monetization stage, it's all about how creative can you get with the different models of how you can treat yourself as a business and figure out various monetization avenues. Um, I think it's not a question of really how many creators who can build a sustainable business now. The question is how long can you really, how much effort and how much consistency and how much discipline can you put in as a creator to continue doing what you're doing and being able to then figure out, your tight community, and then being able to figure out how to kind of leverage that tight community that you've built over a period of time.
Great. And I think for any creator, Ankur, right, you likely said it's about just trying to understand your audience and see where the opportunity lies and being creative about it, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to being creative, I think the single most aspirational goal for any creator today tends to be getting viral. So, what's your take on that? And if there is a trick or secret sauce to getting viral?
Well, I think the only secret sauce to getting viral is just being consistent. Number one, like you cannot be coming in once in 3 months and putting in one piece of content and hoping that it's going to go viral. It might, but it might not. More chances are it might not really. I think number one key is to be consistent with your offering, being disciplined about, well, this is my content calendar and I will stick to this content calendar, and I will continue to keep dig my heels in and continue to do what I'm supposed to do. Now, having said that, and there's something that I talk about in the book as well, but it's more about a framework that I've been thinking about, which when I analyzed and I researched a number of pieces of content that are doing slightly better than the other pieces of content, I've been very curious of trying to figure an answer to that. And to my mind, I call it the 3R structure. I'm sorry for the 5 C's, 3 R's, ABCs. It's almost like going back to kindergarten learning my ABCs. But well, I call it the 3R framework. And 3R basically means if a content piece is recent, is relevant, and is relatable, it is chances are that it will do better than the other pieces of content which don't check on these boxes, right? So let's give an example. And by the way, when I say recent, another way of looking at it is that when it's recent, it's in your memory, it's in your head, right? When you talk about, let's say, relevancy is like, if this is relevant for me, I'll be able to do something about it, my hand. And if it is relatable, which is I feel towards it, it's relatable to me, that's my heart. So it's also, the 3 R's are also 3 H's, which is your head, your hand, and your heart as well. Like in terms of actionables, in terms of more bringing that sort of relatability. And I've really realized that if you are talking now, when it comes to recency, for example, there are not every piece of content, let's say your barrier or your measure of recency will be different from my measure of recency. You might feel like 1 week is recent enough, and anything beyond that is dated for you, and I might feel maybe 1 year is recent enough for me as well. It was also dependent on a bit about the topicality of the subject that we're talking about. It might also depend on where your changing patterns of interest are. But recency basically could be variable depending on a person to person basis. But the way I look at it is that if you're talking about a subject which is really hot and off the press, you're talking about something which is more in everybody's top of mind. For example, if it's Kumbh Mela right now, Kumbh Mela is more recent at this moment than anything else, especially for a spiritual creator point of view, right? And then relevancy is where if I'm there are different pieces of content, but not everything is relevant for me. Like, if I'm talking to, let's say, if we give an example of the spiritual creator, Kumbh is recent, At the same time, if I'm a consumer of that content, and if I'm a spiritual person, then it's also very, relevant to me, and it's also relatable to me. So I mean, I'm a better audience for that kind of content as compared to somebody who is probably, buying a car at this moment, which is which doesn't make any relevancy for them, it doesn't make any relatability for them. So I mean, I think pieces, when you are thinking about your content strategy and you're thinking about what might be a better topic to kind of think about, when I'm talking about, when I'm thinking about my content calendar, then might be a good idea to start thinking about in the 3R framework mindset, so that you realize that, hey, there is some science and some art to the pieces of content that you're putting out there. I mean, at the end of the day, you are the creator, you'll probably know what is best for your audiences. But this is just a very leading sort of a benchmark to say that, hey, I mean, if you're thinking in this direction, potentially you might attract more views, more eyeballs, more engagement as compared to somebody else who is also thinking about come, but maybe thinking about, some a topic which is not relevant or relatable at the same time.
Sure. So, interesting, I think, because the follow up question in that sense is, can any of these be forced? I'll tell you why I asked this, because,
Mm.
again, this is a trend I've noticed of late where, be it any trending topic, everyone, Tom, Dick, and Harry, will jump into the conversation. And taking a loose example, let's say something happens in the world of cricket. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli's future is uncertain. And I have to resist the urge to go and comment about it. And the reason I don't, because I'm not an expert. I'm possibly the worst connected to cricket in this country, which is an apology and which is almost going to be, what shall I say, disturbing to a lot of people, but that's a reality. So the fact is that when you see those interactions, you see those metrics moving where everyone's jumping onto the bandwagon, so to speak, and getting higher engagement. As a creator, there is that temptation in the bottom of your heart to say, why don't you also just jump into the flowing waters, so to speak? So, how does that play out, Ankur?
Well, like I said, I think that is only just one piece of the 3 R's. That is the recency piece. But if you are talking about the recency piece, if you are talking about a recent topic, and which is perfectly fine, see, if you're not, like you yourself say that, hey, cricket is something which you're not you don't relate much with. So if you were to make a piece of content which is not relatable to you as a creator, chances are that it might not be relatable to anybody, because you are looking at it as an alien point of view, right? So I mean, frankly, it's all about being true to yourself and being authentic to yourself,
Mm,
firstly, as a creator. But at the same time, if it's a topic that is recent and you are able to relate with it as well as a creator, and you are able to kind of create that relevancy for your audiences around it, if is there a key takeaway from your messaging that you're putting out as a piece of content, is it relevant for the people that you're talking to and all, then it might have a better sense of doing well. I mean, recency is just one of the check marks. The other two are equally, as not more important, right?
fair point.
So I mean, like, I think you partly answered the question when you said that, while you want to make content on cricket, but you are yourself as a creator not, let's say, relatable, or you're not relating to the topic of cricket yourself, then hey, then you're not being authentic to yourself in the first place. And if you're not being authentic to yourself, then probably the audiences who like you for what you're doing, or who find you authentic in your discourses, they will start to fall off, because they will probably see the lack of authenticity in the content. They will probably see the lack of relatability in the content coming from you then.
Lovely. I think that's really helpful. I think this is something that's going to stay with me. Thanks. Thanks for that. Let's take a 30-second to check in the comments box and see if there's anything that anyone wants answered. I do see, meanwhile, a lot of known names. There's Vivek Khandelwal as well, a dear friend and again member of the LinkedIn program, who's also taking a shot at the hashtag. Vivek, and to others who are putting the hashtag there, please remember it's pixels to profits, the way Srinivas has put it, uh, because the system will only pick the right letters and alphabet. So if you want to, Vivek, there's still some time. You could, and if you're still around, please use the correct hashtag. My sincere request. And there is a question now that we can pull up. Hafiz has a question. He says, what are the current challenges faced by the creator community?
Well, I guess the biggest writing on the wall from where I look at it right now, and I'm not looking at it from, let's say, a point of view of operations or operationality. But let's say I think the biggest challenge that I feel that the creators should start to think about is uh, is the development of technology, is the way things are moving so fast when it comes to AI, when it comes to Gen AI, the AI agents. I think that's a topic that, if not, should be the biggest cause of concern for the creator economy, for the creators particularly. So, Hafiz, I mean, the way I'm looking at it is to say that um, technology is, we've seen where AI was just a year back, and when you start comparing it today, there's a ocean of a difference between the sophistication of the technology just between the last 12 months. And I can only imagine that this is the worst form of AI that we're seeing today. So another 12 months or 24 months from today is going to get even more better and better and better. And now we started to see a lot of virtual creators. Virtual creators are great because they don't tire. They can make 10 pieces of video in a day. They don't look bad at all ever. They can, they can work from 5 different locations in one single day, and they they don't age. They just keep on going. So I mean, look at it that way as compared to a human creator. An AI creator or a virtual creator is really a cause of concern. So I would say that that is the challenge that one should start looking into as a creator, and start thinking about, like, how do you, where is it that you bring your own differentiation over here? How can you, and to the point that we were talking about earlier, how quickly can you get closer to the audiences that you work with today? How quickly can you start delivering more value and start monetizing the relationship that you have with your creators, so that you are able to be in a place that that resonates authenticity and relatability from a audience to a creator point of view. um, I don't think we are very far away from a world in which um, you know AI can give uh, creators an existential crisis. And I think it's a really serious point. In the next 12 months, 18 months, we might get to a point where we spoke about it at the starting of the session today, when we're talking about careers and all. And I was saying that there might be a reverse migration, because a lot of people were leaving jobs to become creators. Now we might see the other way around happening again. And the job world is anyways not a very great market to be in right now. So it's going to become a tough situation. And therefore, I feel like uh, creators should start investing their time and energy in understanding how technology works and how can they best leverage it, so that they are at a place of, uh, they come from a position of power, not from a position of getting victimized at the cost of AI. Idea is, how do you really how are you able to leverage AI to your own advantage, rather than letting it become a big disadvantage to yourself.
Yeah. And that pretty much, Ankur, if you ask me, also expands to other areas of your profession or career, because uh, while we're talking about the creator economy here and creators in particular,
Yeah.
I think for any role, any function, any kind of profession, one will need to and will have to kind of absorb and leverage AI. There's just no two ways about it. So,
Yeah.
like they say, the genie's out of the bottle. We better learn to dance with it.
Yeah, that's true.
We also have another few comments, questions which have come in. Uh, Very dear friend Anshuman, a guru by all standards in the creative world, has a question. He wants to go from 50K to 1 million followers. Now, he's asking for the secret sauce. Will that come in the book or will that come now?
And Jiman, you got to get the book first. Well, again, I think I frankly don't know if there's a secret sauce to be doing that, but I definitely feel like the secret sauce is all about how consistent can we be. And again, we spoke about the 3 R's. How can we start to kind of leverage on those aspects? Mm, but I really feel like, see, again, one of the other tactics that I always tell people that I work with is that we've got to start thinking about a multi-platform strategy. A lot of times I've realized that folks who are doing well, and let's say because you and I both are on LinkedIn, and we both just do LinkedIn, right? But frankly, I always keep saying that, and I think it's a very used analogy anywhere in the world now. that these platforms are like rented land, right? You can get kicked out of these platforms very quickly without any control on your own self. So, Anshuman, even if you do make 1 million followers, but at the end of the day, if you're putting it on a platform, if it's happening on a platform, you are vulnerable to algorithm changes. You are vulnerable to a platform getting banned. You are vulnerable to a situation where you might get, thrown out of the platform for, for getting hacked or something like that. So there are so many. I think the eye on the ball should not really be on how do we get on to the number of followers. While that's a great north star to have, the eye on the ball should be on how do you own your audiences or your community as early as possible. When I say you own it, it means that how do you start delivering or developing a relationship, whether through WhatsApp or through emails or whatnot might that be, but getting in close connects with your audiences so that even if you are forced to move out of a particular platform or a situation, you are able to take your audiences with you to wherever you're going. um, and I mean, a case in point is when you look at TikTok in the US. We don't know the future of it yet, as of now, but we also know that people in India, when it got banned, or in the US, folks were building their entire business and entire livelihoods on TikTok. And it was being done over a period of years. They had put in the heart and soul in building that audience from 5K to 1 million to 5 million. But overnight, the platform goes away. And everything that you've built just goes, literally just goes to the shambles. That is where I'm always more kind of I always emphasize more on the fact that it's not the numbers game really. It's good to have numbers as a vanity metric, I feel, but it's not something that you want to really do at the cost of not securing yourself and your bases when it comes to owning your audiences. So even if you have to slow down the growth but have that breadth of audiences and breadth of platforms and depth of audiences, I think that's going to be probably a better strategy to have as a creator for the future, for future readiness.
Extremely helpful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that will be of great value to many of us who are on the podcast today. So thanks for that. We just have another 3 minutes to go, and I do want to close with the question that Niharika had posed. But before that, I think let's take this opportunity to also see who's the winner of our Pixels to Profits uh, lucky draw. So I'm going to draw the. So Srinivas Sundarajan. So congratulations, Srinivas.
Congratulations.
Thank you for participating. Yes, and you could wait for a few days, and my book will be in your hands. Just send a DM to me with your address, and we'll make sure the book is on its way soon. Congratulations. So, moving to the last question of the day, and taking on, it's linked in a sense to what you shared about TikTok being banned in India a few years ago, and then your latest newsletter. And I think for those who are listening in, do subscribe to Ankur's newsletter. It's a wealth of information about the creator economy. Just that one edition was so insightful, I can't tell you. You also mentioned how TikTok's revenue has surpassed that of YouTube globally, and that was a real eye opener. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is indeed correct. And I was pretty surprised to see that it's not only just surpassed, it's actually double of what YouTube's revenue is. So I think this was a big eye opener for me as well. And Also, I think it's worth noting over here that TikTok has 1.9 billion monthly active users, uh, and out of which the US is only about 149 million for them or something like that, which is which is about, yeah, actually less than even 10%. So the overall contribution from, also in terms of like the number of users, is just 10%, but also in terms of revenue for TikTok globally, US contributes anywhere between 12 to 15% of the overall revenue. So it's not significantly humongous for them, And I'm thinking in my head that even if US was to ban TikTok tomorrow, it's not like TikTok is going to shut it down or something. It's really going to just make a slight dent into them, but not really very significant in terms of, like, closing down the business. And on the contrary, even though it might make a small dent, the valuation of TikTok in the US is much higher at this point. Even if the sale happens to any of the current bidders, I think TikTok will end up making actually more money that way than they would by doing monthly active user revenues over there in the US. So I mean, I think it's a win-win for TikTok, anyways. But yes, it's a fact that China is a huge market, and China, while TikTok is not even operational in India, which is again a very key market. But India again is like we also spoke about, is the average revenue per creator is much lesser over here. So even if we take away that point in terms of like the numbers of revenues, and even if the US goes away, if India goes away, I think still China market is supremely important for a company like TikTok, and it's doing extremely well over there, and it's actually making much more revenues that they would make, even with the exit of countries like India and the US.
Wow, interesting. So what does the future hold? I mean, are there new platforms going to emerge? Is there any change happening in the broader creator economy? What can we
Yeah.
hope to see in the next couple of years?
Yeah, no, for sure. And before that, let me just acknowledge Niharika's um, comment as well, that I'm not trying to scare the creators at all. That is not the intent. I was just trying to be open about how technology is changing us, and maybe that is a good segue into what the future of the creator economy is. Because see, there are three or four things that are changing at the same time. But let's say the key things that are changing are our consumption patterns are changing. We are not the same. We are not consuming content the same way we were consuming content 10 years back or even 5 years back. Every With moving with the passage of time, the way we are consuming content is also changing. The attention economy is also changing. So that, number one, is the first criteria and the catalyst for newer platforms to come into your point, because the second thing is that technologies are changing. And moment technologies start evolving, and we know that technologies are changing and it's happening right in front of our eyes, we should rest assured that there will be newer platforms that will be coming up as well. Third, the monetization models also changing. What we're seeing today in terms of retail commerce or social commerce or creator commerce is not really what it was 3 years back or 5 years back or even 10 years back, whatnot. So the models in terms of you know when we had the traditional media economy, there used to be those traditional media gatekeepers which used to be ensuring that, okay, these are the these are the content that you will see, this is the ads that you will see. Now it's all sort of, you start to pull your content and you start to pull the ads because of the data that is out there in the internet for yourself. So um, so therefore monetization models are also going to evolve. And given the consumer consumption patterns, the technology development, and the monetization models, I certainly feel this is a catalyst for more and more sort of platforms coming in the future, and also new formats of content coming in the future. I don't know whether you're aware, but now there's this concept around, I don't remember the exact name, but it's called, I think, mini series or something, micro series or something, where earlier you used to have, like, you binge watch news Netflix, which are 30 minutes, 40 minutes sort of long serials, one after the other, and you do it over a period of time, and that's binge watching. Now, because the attention economies are shrinking so much, that there are 1 minute series that are actually starting to take place. 1 minute series, and you have hundred of those episodes. So I mean, it's all about how your consumption patterns are changing, and you want to be up to date on what's happening between series 1 and series 35, but you don't have the time to sit there for so long. So you are watching those 35 minutes, and you're watching 35 episodes, 1 minute long each. So I mean, innovative models are coming in. We know that AI bots are coming in now, and AI bots not only for content creation, but also as consumer AI bots as well. So those are coming in. Engagement patterns are going to change. There are so many things that are happening right now in the market. Humanoids. I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing humanoid creators in the future. Like we have driverless cars already in the future, in the current world. I do not see no reason why should we not have humanoid creators coming in and actually showing us what content creation could look like in the future. So I feel like there's so many different patterns that are going to emerge very quickly in the next 6 to 8 months, maybe 12 months, that new platforms, to your point, because are certainly a must have. They will certainly, new innovative platforms will definitely start emerging from where we are today. And the creator economy is certainly not going to look the same way it is looking today in the next maybe 3 to 5 years. A lot would have changed, 100%.
Brilliant. So, in a nutshell, I think a lot of work cut out for all of us in the creator world who are trying to make a mark. And this episode will definitely stay in my memory, in my and on my LinkedIn feed and YouTube feed as a very, very personal and very, very cherished reminder of the journey that one has started and embarked upon. So, thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. Ankur, it's been fabulous chatting with you and getting these insights. This will definitely possibly need another, you can say, continuation at some point. So
Yeah.
we will definitely schedule that because there's just so much information and data and insights that you carry. And I think for all of us who want to sharpen our saw, you can be the most important piece in the puzzle. So thank you so much for taking the time today. Wish you all the best and look forward to that book when it's released.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And next time, I think we'll start with the question that I see on the screen right now, what the future is. And maybe we should start with that. I really look forward to it. And yes, I mean, we really barely scratched the surface of what the creator economy is. There's so many things, so many different angles to kind of go into. I'd love to come back again and maybe have a more detailed chat with you on different aspects, let's say commerce and creator economy and things like that. So maybe we should talk about all of that in the future. But thank you very much for having me. It was such a good pleasure being here, and so good to meet you and everybody else on the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that comment from Srinivasan encapsulates whatever I wanted to share. So thank you once again, Ankur.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. We catch up soon on another episode very soon.